Hey guys, I went 10-0 in Blitz this weekend. It was a really good event. I loved the map. I think the map was really cool. I think it was definitely a map that favored single harvester rush decks or aggro decks in general. A lot of people said that it might be a tech map because your harvesters are quite easy to protect, but it's also a map that was very weak to bike rushes and JJT rushes. So going tech on this particular game map was actually quite difficult to make work. So I want to just show you some of the games that I did, because I went 10-0 and I was using AliciaDestiny's deck that she piloted pretty much all through her climb on the GDI ladder, and also pretty much all through from what I saw from her Rivals Blitz stuff. It's a really fun deck. It requires that you do have the Kodiak. This is the absolute imperative unit, although I do want to show you I did win with playing the Rifleman instead of the War Dog, so it's possible, but the Kodiak is imperative. Now I am kind of wondering where the Kodiak comes on level rewards, so I'm just going to double check for you guys. Alright, so you kind of have to be level 50. That's not great. But once you do get the Kodiak, it's actually a really fun deck to play, and if the Kodiak is in the same state once you guys get there, hopefully you guys can have a go. So I want to show you some of the games. I'm not going to show you all of them because not all of them were fantastic. This was a really good game versus a guy called Mr. G Squared. He's a YouTuber. I'll link his YouTube channel in the description. And so I'm going to talk through a little bit about the particular games and decision makings that I had, because this is one of the closer games. I generally stomped most of the games on my 10-0 Blitz run. A massive thanks to AliciaDestiny for this deck. The whole point of the deck is, and we'll go through it as this thing goes on. The whole point of the deck is that you want to win first missile. It's pretty important that you win first missile. Now you can lose that first missile, you can definitely go for the second, but it's a little bit harder to come back. This deck relies on getting first missile and then using the Kodiak to rush their base. You basically rush the Kodiak with Jackson on their base. You don't need to have Jackson, but Jackson makes it 10 times easier to make this work, so it's definitely a Kodiak-Jackson combination that works well. So me versus Mr. G Squared here, I started War Dogs. I went double War Dogs just because I could get some pressure across all of the points. And then I saw him go into the Laser Troopers, which meant that I was going to start to move towards my Shockwaves. And my Shockwaves are a pretty good way of dealing with Laser Troopers. You can see that I used my War Dogs to body block his movement of his Flame Troopers just to give myself the best possible chance. He then moved his Flame Troopers a little bit awkwardly there, which meant that I was able to get free defensive position on them, and we took out the majority of his Flame Troopers in that instance. And that allowed me to get another set of Shockwave Troopers on the field to take out both of his Flame Troopers really easily, and then I was able to move up again. Now he then goes into Laser Drones. Laser Drones are a great counter to War Dogs. So look what I do. I split my pressure across all 3 points. I need to make sure that he's constantly trying to contest every single point and making it very difficult for him. So even with the laser drones, which aren't that great versus something like my Shockwave Troopers, you can see now that I have at least 1 unit on every pad, and even though he's spamming laser drones, I did enough to get that first missile because I spread all of my units across the points. I put him in the the most awkward areas to contest. And after, as soon as I win that point, I just start to pressure his harvester. That's going to force him to build counters to my JJTs. It's going to force him to deal with my units. And this is where things started to go a little bit south. He'd saved up for an Inferno, which was a really good way of applying pressure to my deck. Now, I can win versus an Inferno with a Pitbull spam, especially Pitbulls that are 1 level ahead of the Inferno because they don't die in 1 shot, I think. But to be honest, my main goal here was to save up for my Kodiak, which is why I went for the Tech Lab, and I'm really not bothered about winning the second missile. And the reason I'm not bothered about winning the second missile is that now that he's got 2 Infernos on the field, it's going to be really difficult for me to actually contest that with the amount of Pitbulls that I can get out with the pop cap. So what I do, knowing that it's very unlikely that he's got a huge answer to the Kodiak, is just pump it towards his base, get the Colonel Jackson on, and start throwing out the positioning on the Kodiak, as you can see. And it's really important that you position your Kodiak on a hex tile that has got 2 base units next to it. So it's got a base unit in front of it and a base unit to the left or the right of it, because you want to get 2 Kodiak shots per cycle onto the base. Now the Phantom is good, but it's not the best versus the Kodiak, because Kodiak is really tanky, and Phantom, whilst it slows the attack speed down, the Kodiak is really beefy, and you need more than just 1 Phantom to take out Kodiak quickly. So he wasn't expecting the Kodiak base rush, as you could tell, and by the time that my Kodiak got to his base, the Phantom was a little bit too late. If the Phantom had got to me as I was moving to his base and slowed down the Kodiak movement speed, he actually probably would have won this game, but it was just the timing of the Kodiak that I got out was really important. He actually responded probably as best as he could have done, which is send the Infernos to my base, but I did manage to take out one of his Infernos before it got to my base with a Pitbull, which basically gave me a bit of a head start on the base rush as well. This was my 10-0 game. Really interesting game. I will come back to it. I want to show you another one. Try and find one where the levels are more even than not. Most of them are 9 10s. I think we'll have a look at this one here, Yuzam. This is actually a pretty good one. All 10s versus all 11s. There's not much of a level discrepancy there. So we'll go over this game as well. And then you guys can see exactly what I'm doing in terms of the way that I play, because it can be much quicker than the 1 versus G squared. G squared actually gave me a very, very rough ride for this in particular. So what I do with my harvester is on this map specifically, always move it to the point right above my finger. That is because it's the point that is closest to my base, it's the easiest to defend, and it also means that my harvester is going to move from my base outwards and doesn't have to make any weird loops, and it also means it's less exposed to the enemy. This guy did not move his harvester, so that's made me very aware that he's just got that single harvester sitting there. My war dogs have got great scouting range, and now what I'm going to do is play a dance with these bikes. I'm going to try and make it so that my JJTs are protected while my war dogs are basically body blocking, which is what I do here. I try and get up there and body block with my war dogs, or at least distract my war dogs so my JJTs can get in and try and deal with those bikes. Now he has got 2 sets of militants here, which is a really good way of putting pressure, and he immediately goes for a Giga Cannon. Now this is interesting because I haven't really shown my hand in terms of vehicles apart from war dogs, so I'm just going to throw my JJTs right to the back there. Now, unfortunate for me, he ended up going for the Chem Troopers, but he made the mistake number 1 of any kind of game, just didn't contest the pads. So that's what I was doing with those war dogs, just trying to contest the pads as much as possible. I went to body block the Giga Cannon. I won the first point because he wasn't moving his rifleman anywhere, and you might say, well, he should have moved his rifleman. Sometimes it can be very distracting when you've got a lot going on to actually react the right way. When you've got a JJT pressuring your Giga Cannon, you might just think to yourself, well, I need to make sure that that's what I'm dealing with in the first place. So now I'm in a situation where he's got these Chem Troopers out. I have to somehow gain control of these points to steal the missile out. Now my main goal here is not win the missile at this point. I'm not winning the missile versus a Giga Cannon that is set up behind Chem Troopers and militants. So this is why I changed my game plan up. He's actually committed a lot to the middle platform. I've managed to steal the missile for just a little bit, and you'll see what I'll do here. I want the harvester bounty. It's so important that I get this massive harvester bounty boost here, because that's going to give me enough to get out my Kodiak. And whilst I'm distracting him on the pad with 10 cost units, I get my Kodiak out, and now I'm just going to run it straight down towards his base. So it's a really good comeback mechanic in games where if you win the first missile and you don't have a lot of juice left, the Kodiak will provide that juice for you. And there we do exactly what we did previously. We just throw the Kodiak at the base whilst we just pump it with the Colonel Jackson buff, and presto, we win the game. Really, really good example of the way the Kodiak can bring you back into the game in the late game. I basically copied this playstyle of Alicia because she beat me with it on ladder, and it was super strong. This game wasn't actually that good. So I kind of want to show you. Oh, actually no, I'll show you this game because this was the game that I went 10-0 on, so it is important, I guess. And this guy was obviously also 9-0 at this point, because it generally tends to match you up versus other 9-0s when you're going for your 10th match if you're 9-0 yourself.
New objective available.
So again, I'm just going to let my harvester go down towards that bottom right point. Now he does the same thing, so that means he does kind of understand what's going on. I'm going to show you some of the tools as well. I'm just showing you the scouting range here. So I've scouted the 3 harvester tiles and seen that he's only got that 1 harvester on the back point, which I can assume is there. So it doesn't actually matter to me anymore to scout until a little bit further. The most important thing for me is getting out the war dog. I'm actually going to do this whole thing in my point of view without showing you exactly what he's doing, because it gives me a bit of an understanding of sort of how we can talk through these games. So the JJTs come out. I'm not escaping the JJTs, so I just want to get as much damage and distract them for as long as possible while I get the shockwaves out. I'm still confirming that he's got a war factory and a barracks. This is only 2 sets of sort of buildings, and now I'm just sort of cycling my shockwaves around to try and stop his jump jet troopers getting to my harvester, because it looked like he was trying to go aggressive onto my harvester. Now I see his shockwaves come onto the back pad, and for me, that's a no-no. I don't want to send my JJTs over there, so for the most part now, my JJTs are just going to be there to contest the back platform. And you can see here, I'm now just trying to position everything so that it blocks for as long as possible, and you can see he just didn't have the units in the field to be able to contest the pads, and by taking out the next set of shockwave troopers, we end up getting this missile pretty handily. So you can see what I'm doing here now, and he realizes it. I'm rushing my JJTs towards his harvester. I actually stop them in mid-tracks to take out a couple of shots on those war dogs. And at this point, it's more of a distraction tactic than anything. I just want to try and force him to build some counters so that I have some time. And again, look what he's doing. He's not charging the platform here. I'm very happy to just let him have the time. And so I'm going to try and force him back into contesting me whilst I have my tech lab out already. So my tech lab is up now. My tech lab is up, and at the meantime, I'm just trying to contest the platform, trying to force him to build some counters, and I'm going to go for the Kodiak when I get the required resources. Now I am in a position where I'm actually doing well on the second missile, so this is where things start to go a little bit south for me. That's a massive tempo play from Solomon. So I'm just like I'm not building anything at this point. Not investing anything else. I've just lost 3 units to an ion cannon, but I know that he's just spent 150 Tiberium on that. So it's very unlikely that he's either got a tech lab out or very unlikely that he's got enough to get a hammerhead quickly. So I am now going to just boost my Kodiak over to his base and kill it, because he's just spent a huge amount on that ion cannon, and that's expended a lot of resources. And whilst he gets the second missile, he ends up losing his base because the Kodiak is just super strong, and I knew that there was very unlikely that he had a direct counter to it, and that allowed me to get the win. It's actually these have been really short. I want to show you one of the quicker games to show you just how quickly this game can actually you can actually win this game. I think this was a quick game.
Establishing battlefield control.
I'm going to do it in my point of view again as well, because the new replay function does allow you to do that in your point of view, and I think that's really cool. So here we go. Let's do it in my point of view as well. So I don't know what he's doing right now, obviously. I am going to start my harvester. I always like to start with harvester just because it generates my income. And again, because I'm not playing like an MLRS deck, I do top out at a Kodiak. Actually getting the Tiberium income earlier is actually quite nice. So I don't see anything at this point in time. I do then go and scout the 3 harvester tiles, which you can see there. I know that he hasn't gone for a second harvester just yet, which means that I am just free to start getting more war dogs onto the contester points. And again, I'm just bouncing back and forth just to see exactly what he's doing. You can see I moved my war dogs up here, and if you look at what he has got on the field, I see that he's gone for a war factory. So he's invested Tiberium into a war factory. He's only got shockwave troopers on the field right now. And at this point, I'm just trying to position my JJTs where the war dogs can body block the shockwaves for as long as possible for me, whilst I try and put my JJTs into a position to contest his pitbull. The war dogs are actually really good versus shockwave troopers, and in this meantime, like, I just left my war dogs on the point because he was so obsessed with trying to stop my jump jet troopers from killing his pitbull, he actually forgot to contest the point at all. And so at this point, I'm just going to send my JJTs at his harvester. Not going to get the kill, but they provided a sufficient amount of pressure. So I see him now throw shockwaves at my base. A little bit worried that he might be trying to base rush me with shockwave troopers, so I do have to give some kind of response here. I see another set of shockwave troopers come towards me, and now I'm just going to try and throw them at his harvester. Whether they make it or not, I can't remember. I think they do, yeah. A single one makes it over. I didn't actually think that was going to happen, and he doesn't actually get the harvester kill, which is really disheartening. But in the meantime, I'm just keeping that missile stalled for as long as possible because, again, I'm topping out with the Kodiak. I've got the Kodiak now, got that tech lab online, and he hasn't even started charging the second missile, really. He's got nothing in his deck that is particularly good against the Kodiak, apart from the pitbulls, but as long as I position my Kodiak in the right way, that's going to allow me to kill the pitbulls very quickly. Now, I want to have it attacking 2 tiles at the same time on the base, so I have to send it all the way to the end here, and that's going to allow me, with the Jackson buff, eventually very easily to get it out and taken. The second harvester also allows me to build a second Kodiak, which doesn't even get to the base in time, and we get the win, and that was a 2-minute 11 win, as you can see in the top end of the screen. So really quick win with this deck from AliciaDestiny. It is such a good deck. I would recommend you guys give it a go on ladder as well, because it's not just this Rivals Blitz map that it's good on. The reason it was good on this map particular is because it's a very short map, so the Kodiak getting across the screen doesn't take very long, and it's hard to react. But this map, this deck works on pretty much any map. I got beaten with it by Alicia on ladder, which is why I started playing it, and honestly it is just super strong. Got me the 10-0 in Blitz, so you guys should definitely give it a go on ladder if you've got Kodiak. Again, you kind of need to have Kodiak in this deck, unfortunately. It is one of those decks that once you unlock Kodiak you can make it work, but unfortunately there isn't really a direct replacement for Kodiak in this sense, because Kodiak is just a really good base rusher that is hard to react to. Alright guys, I'll see you soon.